In this exercise, I'll show you how to combine the effects of multiple graphic styles. I'll also show you how to save the result as your own custom graphic style. I've saved my progress as mediumresolution.ai, and I'm going to switch over to the Layers panel, twirl open the background layer, and then meatball that base path right there, which is currently filled with a brick pattern. Now notice if I bring up the Graphic Styles panel, which you may recall you can also get by pressing Shift F5, and it might take a moment or two for the Graphic Styles panel to populate because Illustrator has to calculate all these thumbnails. And let's say that I go ahead and click on RGB wood grain in order to apply that style. Why, then Illustrator is going to switch out all of the effects. So it's going to completely modify everything inside the Appearance panel. If I now switch over to the Appearance panel, you'll see that my old fill, my red fill, has been replaced by a kind of low saturation orange fill. Nothing's assigned to it. We don't have the texturizer effects anymore. We've got these new effects: grain, accented edges, and plastic wrap. And you can see what kind of contribution they make by turning them on or off. For example, let's say I don't want this paneling to be quite this dark. I love the fact that it looks like it has some sort of cheap vinyl goop on it, which is the contribution of the plastic wrap effect, by the way. But I don't want all this darkness. I want to lighten things up a little bit. And you can lighten this effect by turning off accented edges. And that will go ahead and reveal the wood grain in the background for what it is, with the plastic wrap in the foreground, because as you may recall, the top dynamic effect is the first one applied, the bottom one is the last one applied. All right, let's say we want to make some modifications to the grain. For example, I want to make it go back and forth as opposed to up and down. I want horizontal grain. So I'm going to click on grain in order to bring up the filter gallery dialog box. And then I'm going to change the grain type. You can mess with the intensity and contrast if you like, but I'm going to change the grain type from vertical to horizontal. And you can experiment with the other ones, of course, but the other ones don't produce wood-like effects, just so you know. Now I'm going to click OK in order to apply that modification, and then I'll wait a moment for Illustrator to do its thing and recalculate the effects and so forth. All right, that's how you replace one graphic style with another. What if you want to heap one graphic style onto another? So you want the results of both graphic styles to appear here inside the Appearance panel. Then you press the Alt key or the Option key on the Mac and you click on a style thumbnail. And I'm going to Alt or Option click on RGB Rust. Now, this is heaping on a lot of effects this time around, so it's going to be quite slow. And you also have to bear in mind that I increased the document raster effect settings value to 150 ppi. So I am causing Illustrator to do some intense computational work, but the progress bars eventually should go away, as they have for me, and you'll end up getting this really nice interaction of that wood grain effect along with the texture pattern. And so what I've ended up doing is adding a couple of additional fills. Each one of those fills may or may not have, I'm not actually sure. They both have spatter effects associated with them. That's interesting. And then I've also added a couple of additional Photoshop effects to the overall object, including diffuse glow and craquelure. And you can check those out just by clicking on those links. However, what I want to do at this point is save out the result, save out this wicked cool effect as my own custom graphic style. And I'm going to do that by dropping down to the bottom of the Graphic Styles panel and Alt-clicking or Option-clicking on that little page icon. And by virtue of the fact that I held down the Alt or Option key, I forced the display of the Graphic Style Options dialog box. That means I can go ahead and name this guy as I create it, which is a good idea because otherwise things can get pretty sluggish. And I'll go ahead and call it Wood and Texture, and then I'll click OK. And then strangely, Illustrator has to run through all the progress bars again. It basically has to recalculate the entire effect. And that's, somewhat problematic in my opinion, but it seems to be the price of creating a graphic style. Anyway, once the progress bars go away, you'll see at the bottom of your list a new style that's called Wood Texture. Darn it, it doesn't take the ampersand. So I'm going to have to double click on it in order to rename it. There's a tip for you. Don't use an ampersand. I'll call it Wood and Texture, click OK, and I'll cross my fingers that Illustrator doesn't have to this time redisplay the progress bars. Yay! And that is how not only you use dynamic effects inside of Illustrator, but how you combine your vector-based dynamic effects with pixel-based dynamic effects, adjust their resolutions, and of course combine the effects of graphic styles and save off your own here inside Illustrator.